Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Lara Disantolo and Christina Collier.
Thanks, Speedy. My name is Christina Collier. I am excited to welcome our first Fireside Chat guest, Laura Disantolo. And we're going to be talking about how to run your nonprofit like a venture-backed startup. So this will be really relevant, I think, especially for those impact founders or investors to learn from some of the practices that Laura has put in place with her company. So you are the managing director and co-founder of Forward Inc., which is an amazing social enterprise that's devoted to empowering individuals from a refugee background, helping them to launch, grow, fund their businesses. And actually, Forward is celebrating a major milestone today. 5 years ago was your founding of the company, of the organization.
Correct.
So really nice, I can imagine, to sort of take a look back on the last 5 years and reflect on the impact that you've had on all these people's lives, helping them to sort of revitalize themselves in their new home countries. So really, congratulations on all the amazing work that you do. And I know that you also have learned a lot along the way in these last 5 years, particularly around how to measure the success of your impact and how to maximize that impact. So can you talk to us a little bit about the evolution of your thoughts around the culture of impact in nonprofits, both the good and the bad?
Yeah, so I think what is super interesting about the entire impact space is that the focus is still a lot on quantity over quality, which is very hard once you work in that space because you want to deliver really good support. At least me, I would prefer to support 10 people really well instead of 100 not so well, so to say. So that is definitely something that we try to find a balance every day. Do we rather help 500 refugees on a yearly basis or 200, but then really build an entire ecosystem around these people? But of course, our big goal for the upcoming time is to increase our budget by 40% every year and then to increase the impact numbers by 60%.
Wow.
So hopefully that will lead to reach, but also like the vertical support so that we can improve really everything. And of course, in order to do so, we need to have a strong team. So always looking for ambitious, talented people that want to step into the impact space and support the mission.
Yeah, I remember we had a sort of preparation talk, and I found it super interesting to the balance that you need to take as a managing director running these teams, maximizing for impact. So recognizing the fact that many of your team members are really mission driven, but also wanting to have this sort of commercial approach, basically. Has that always been an easy balance to navigate with your team members, or do you feel like sometimes they skew a little bit more from one skill set or purpose to the other?
Yeah, I think that's actually quite hard if you work in an NGO, but you are very ambitious and driven because you need to every single day motivate people, and you cannot really motivate them by commercial means or give them a bonus. And I know that for a lot of people that's not top of mind, but in a lot of cases you cannot even pay a salary that matches their experience. So that's something that is quite tough, I think, especially through COVID, because you were all behind your screens. So to keep up that momentum and motivation. And now the past 4 months, I think we did a really good job. We have 3 really strong new hires in the team. So I'm really excited to scale and to move forward. And we now work with very clear targets and overall KPIs for the organization, which we never had. And it also pushed people out of the team because they did not want to work in such a sometimes stressful environment. So you win some, you lose some, and hopefully the right people stick. Yeah.
Yeah, that was maybe just to even dive a little bit deeper into that. So you mentioned a couple of months ago that you shifted this culture to be more KPI driven. What were some of the motivations for that? Because I guess you had been operating for 4 years already in a certain type of organization. How was that? Well, why did you make that transition to more KPI driven in December of last year, and how did you accomplish that? Did you have somebody come in and consult you, or was it something that you took on board yourself as the managing director? I'm sure a couple of folks would love to learn those details.
So for me personally, I don't like status quo. I don't like to keep going with business as usual. And I really lacked that momentum during COVID. So I was like, okay, we need to have clear targets. We want to grow by so and so much every month. And that leads to this amount per year. And these overall organizational goals, right, they need to trickle down towards individual team members. And everyone needs to be also aligned. And I had really tough conversations with team members because no one could hide anymore, you know? So I think that was also a rough awakening for some people, that they were like, oh my God, she knows exactly now what I'm doing and how I'm delivering. And 4 years ago, it was just, you know, a couple of students starting an organization that helps refugees to start their own business. No structure, nothing. And now it becomes more and more organized. And I think as the structure goes up, for some people the spirit goes down. For me personally, my spirit just keeps increasing because we achieve more and more and more. So, yeah, I'm a very messy person, but I really enjoy the structure in this professional environment.
What are some of those main success KPIs that you're focusing on, and how do those trickle down to the individual from the team level?
Yeah, so one of the biggest KPIs that we track and also that we report on in our impact report is government savings. Because throughout our different programs, we now save the Dutch government over 5.5 million per year, because we help people to get out of social welfare. Incredible. So that's on a yearly basis, and we hope to really improve that drastically starting next year. By increased budget, we can have more people, we can run more programs. And then so far we have started 82 businesses, and close to 400 people achieved economic independence. So they are not necessarily employed in their startup or working for a startup, but they got a job, so they don't need social welfare anymore. So that's great.
Wow, and is that link with the government and your impact clear to the government, or is that something that you measure yourselves and...
Yeah, so we measure it ourselves, and every 6 months we try to knock on the government's doors to say like, hey, how about, you know, like impact bonds, and like, why don't we work together? But it is really tough. Here in Rotterdam, the municipality is super supportive. But in Amsterdam, not so much, because they have their own programs. So they want to do it on their own, but their programs are not focused on refugees. So they lack a bit this experience, and people drop out in high numbers. So it's a bit of competition in this space also, which you would not maybe think, but it's quite competitive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. And then on... maybe just thinking about, you know, you mentioned that there were some team members in that transition to a more structured approach. Do you find that some of those people are more motivated or more connected to the mission now that they've realized some of those high-level numbers and how it connects to their own KPIs? Or is it, like as you said before, a bit too transparent and a little bit too structured for some of the team members? And in those cases, what happens?
I think that the people that really fit us culturally and mission-wise and competence-wise, they are still there and they really enjoy it, because the thing is with targets, if you don't have any, you can also not celebrate if you achieve them, right? So now that we have clear targets, every quarter we can revise those, and if we then meet them via different ways, we can celebrate it, you know, we can go for dinner, we can do things as a team. We now also have like an internal learning and development program where we bring experts in that teach the team. And I think it's really important that you push the team to learn continuously on the job, but also beyond that. And so it's also really important for us to grow so that we can have the people grow into new positions. Because if you're with 15 people, you know, not everyone can be managing a team. But if you are with 30, you can't just have like a growth path. And I think a lot of people, they care a lot about their personal growth and ambition. So there is a lot to be gained to map out a clear career path within Forward. So yeah.
And is that something that this sort of mapping of the career path, is that something that you introduced alongside that new KPI-driven approach, or was
Yeah.
that okay?
Yeah.
Great.
And the turnover was also just quite high. Like we would have very talented people coming straight out of university. And then after 2 years, they are like, okay, I want to go somewhere else. You know, I want to make more money. Or my partner tells me I need to make more money to buy a house. So we're like, oh my God, we're losing all these great people. So I think with like good career path, increased budget, and tying the salaries to that hopefully that we can keep the people at Forward. But of course, there are also a lot of macro facts that influence this great resignation that is going on at the moment. So, yeah.
Well, just before we stepped on stage, you also mentioned an interesting stat, because you are so focused on numbers. You were looking at the applicants and sort of where they're skewing from geographically. So that might be something interesting to sort of share with the audience and connect it with the real world headlines. You mentioned that the Ukrainian refugees are making up a large number. Does that, this sort of influx of new communities, will that affect your KPIs or how you run your programs? Just curious about that.
It's so interesting because given that I work with refugees for the past 5 years, that has always been my space, right? And now for 3 months, given the war in Ukraine, all of a sudden companies reach out to us saying, hey, are you doing something for Ukrainian refugees? Can we sponsor you? And we really took there a stance on we don't do anything specifically for Ukrainian refugees. We stand with all refugees. And we don't want to positively discriminate because we saw already that Ukrainian refugees can start to work within 2-3 months in the Netherlands. They got their registration number. We know a lot of Afghani, Yemeni, Iranian people that for 10 years are stuck in a refugee camp. So we just want to make it clear that we are here for all newcomers and we work all together. But we are not now creating one program specifically for Ukrainians. It's also really tough for other newcomers to see that openness.
I understand.
You know? So, I understand it, but we need to be very careful how we engage.
Yeah. It's interesting, I think, also how the press attention and media can also just influence societal groupthink in a sense. Yeah. And it is really great that you're also making sure to use that interest and awareness building to positively affect the other communities that you're looking to support. So I hope that in those efforts you're also able to get those corporate dollars or euros to fund the general programs. But yeah, it's really incredible, and I think it's wonderful what you're doing and that you take the time today to have a nice celebration at the end of the day. After this, Laura's going straight to a celebratory event for the 5-year anniversary. So we won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much, Laura, for your advice.
Thanks.
Thank you.